Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapiyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Daishitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sakurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sakurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sakurave Namaha. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Anjanaya Nandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram. So it's beautiful that we're doing Ramayana at this point in time where the Ram Mandir has just opened and we got to celebrate that on Monday. Really, such beautiful artwork, no? Generated about him coming home. Um, and really beautiful messages from so many different people. I was been mentioning that I've been binge watching Instagram just on this round and there, like listening to the budgets and seeing the pictures. And but there was this one about an air hostess. You know how they do those announcements before they landing, and they were landing into Ayodhya, and he did this whole spiel about where Ram lives. Hmm. And it's like just regular dude in India doing this whole spiel about where does Ram live? Ram lives where two brothers get along so well that they support each other. Ram lives where a husband will stand up for his wife's rights, even wage a war for her. Ram lives where a son will follow his father's word. Ram lives where it is like before the flight lands in Ayodhya. There's I mean, I don't know if they just made the video for the purpose of Instagram or if the air hostess actually did this whole spiel, but they did seem to be right because I got recordings even of people traveling on the day where the whole flight is singing Ram Nam and trains were singing Ram Nam and traffic lights it was Jai Shri Ram. It was seems to like really have been the place to be. Even though we weren't there, it's like Ram Rajya is wherever we are thinking about Ram. There was that one song that was the theme of the day, that Ram Aayenge. Mere chopari ke baag khul jayenge. And We did the bhajans here on Monday night, and somebody who sings so beautifully with such perfect Hindi sang the song. And I thought he even arranged the song to be sang for us here, sitting in the ashram in Hong Kong. Because unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to sing it, but it was sung. And so sweetly, so sweetly. So Ram, this, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning of last week's class. We do this story so that we can, like, there's a framework. Wait for that air hostess to say, where does Ram live? Where two brothers can live. Like, there's a framework in the story of the Ramayana to understand that. Where a son would be willing to carry out what the father has promised, or what the father had, even with the temple being built, it wasn't one father. It was generation after generation after generation, each son fulfilling what the father desired by keeping the traditions of temple alive, and even the architecture and the murti and the design. All of that was handed down generation by generation of generation. And so really it is where Ram lives, because each generation held the culture and held that devotion and held that same goal that the temple will once again be opened. Okay, so we paused in the story where Tadaka, Marich, and Sabahu have been killed. And I'm not sure if I went into the story because we've had that long break in between, right? So Vishwamitra comes, takes Ramchandraji to the forest. They get all these wonderful weapons, and then the first person they kill is Tadaka, who comes. She's quite large. I think I did mention this already. And that's because the asuras can take different shapes and sizes. And I spoke about that quite extensively last week too, about how we portray and taking different, well, maybe we don't look physically different, but we definitely put up different facades. But asuras can actually change the way they appear. And we don't see so much of the violence that she has done, because we meet her when she's in this, presenting herself to be very peaceful in the story of the Ramayana. But what has been happening in the forest, where all these ashrams are, is that the minute they would sit down to do yajna, the asuras would come and would soil the yajna. Did I tell you all this? And throw blood and fecal matter and urine, and really, really dirty and defile the area where the puja was being done. Interesting when we want to fight, or interesting when we want to cause obstruction. We come up with so many different ways in which we can do it. Right? So they didn't go around killing the monks, but throwing off all this very, very disgusting stuff is effectively getting their job done by stopping yajna and totally demotivating anybody from doing it. Like, warfare can happen in different ways. And so Tadika was the lead in that. They were all her children, and she was like a general, yes, you could say. Yeah. Why did they obstruct yajna from being done? So this is the sign of Kali. We in Kali Yuga, Ramayana is taking place in Tetra Yuga. So it wasn't even Kali Yuga. This is to go from Satya Yuga to Treta Yuga, Kali manifest in some form. They don't want people to thrive, spiritually. Why? Yeah. it's the same thing, right? It's that whole tall poppy syndrome. Like somebody's doing beautifully and then you pull them down. Whether it be singers or dancers. And they do, right? They sabotage someone who's doing really well. Businesses do it to each other. And sometimes it's not profit. Sometimes it's just sheer pettiness or vengeance. You don't let the other person thrive. But there could also be this element. And this is me thinking out aloud. I'm not saying this is the reason. But I have noticed a little bit of when people are doing something that we consider to be too good, like they're too goody-goody. And then we feel they're making me look bad by being so goody-goody. So we don't want them to do it. So we can go ahead and not be so goody-goody and not feel so bad about ourselves being the way we are. I have noticed that to some extent, where people want to corrupt somebody who's quite sincere and diligent just because I guess it's a very rajasic or tamasic kind of happiness. And that's exactly what asuras are, getting their happiness from very short-lived thrills like this, just obstructing. But it is there in us. It is definitely there in the human personality. Because you see, even in children, there's some children who are so intrigued and curious, and they'll play with a bug. And then there's other children who just stamp, kill, swat bugs. Okay. And as children, it's obviously a nature playing out, because we don't, as adults, go around either being curious about the bug or squatting them, pretty much ignore them. But children will react because they, one, intrigued, and so there's that personality type within us to have wonder and intrigue and curiosity, and they'll literally like watch how's it climbing, or they'll follow it to see where it's going, and there's this fascination. And you'll have another kid who sees it, kill. And there's this power that it can do that. So there is that aspect of us that enjoys destruction. Not in everyone, but it's definitely there. So asuric quality of oppressing, basically that's what it is. It's a quality of oppressing. And so dharma flourishes where we encourage and support each other to do dharma. And then the minute we make it hard to do dharma, people give up dharma very quickly. So if you make it hard to work without corruption, people will give in to corruption very quickly. You make it hard to prosper in a certain way. So ashrams were still very dedicated to performing yajna. Asuras were trying to hinder yajna. And Tadaka was the lead on this. And then Marich and Subahu were, again, very in the forefront of causing the havoc. And they were shot with arrows. Subahu dies. I mentioned he was symbolic of sorrow. And Marich was sent far, 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 far away. False, dosha, delusion. In the presence of Ram can be kept aside. But the moment the Ravina's back in the spotlight, they kind of creep back. And so we'll see that Subahu comes back. I mean, sorry, Marich comes back. Golden. Marich is our golden deer. Gold in interesting. Gold in itself is very interesting. Okay, so we've beautifully covered this section, I think. And then once the yajna has been conducted and the forest has been saved of now Asura's destroying yajnas, Vishwamitra says, well, there's another beautiful yajna, and let's go attend that. Ramchandraji and Lakshman don't know, they're just following Vishwamitraji, and he takes them to Mithila. Mithila is the kingdom of Janakpuri, where Janak Maharaj is the king, and our beloved Sita is the princess. So, did I start this already? Yeah. No. But no, we can't go to Sita yet. Sorry. En route. I forgot. There's a very important scene that happens before that. En route. I was excited. Let's get them married. En route, they are walking to Mithila, and as they are passing by, they pass by this abandoned ashram. You can really see that it's abandoned because things are broken and unkept, and dust has collected. And there's nobody there. No, sorry. The well has dried up, and the leaves have been collecting. And so Vishwamitra takes Ramchandraji into this ashram. And Ramchandraji is just walking around. And then his foot touches a boulder, like a big stone, and the stone turns into a beautiful young woman, Ahalya. And so Ahalya's story again is very, very beautiful, well-known in the story of Ramayana. So what happened to Ahalya? Why was she cursed to be the stone? So Ahalya was married to Gautam Rishi. Gautam Rishi was doing immense tapasya charya to purify his mind, to get moksha, to gain siddhis, whatever the reason is. But Gautam Rishi is considered to be one of the really high caliber rishis, even today referred to in many, many aspects of spirituality. And he was really, really focused. Hey, you hear these stories, and these rishis really shouldn't have gotten married because they're not interested in wife. So then poor wife is there, but they're not interested in wife. They interested in doing their tapas. And that's fine. Do your tapas. But then poor wife wanted husband. So she's thinking, one day maybe he'll look at me, and then devout, and so whatever he needs, she's doing. And they would do a lot of seva, they would do a lot of tapas on their own. I mean, living with somebody who's doing so much tapas, by default anyways, you're going to end up doing so much tapas. So he wakes up early, she's up early, and then he goes off to take his cold water bath in the river. She's collecting the flour and the samadri for the puja and the water for the abhishek and making the prasad and collecting all the rest of it and getting it all ready. And he nicely comes, everything's ready. He does the puja. Not that he's not doing, he's doing very, very well. He's puja and austerity. And we hear this in the story of the Bhagavatam as well. Kabanda Rishi is the same. He's like, he wants moksha. He's set on his path, he wants to do tapas. And then he gets married to Devahuti. Devahuti is the same. Like, she wants a husband. She didn't want to marry somebody who's going to sit and do tapas the whole time. But there it's really cool. It's interesting. In the Mahabharata, he appreciates that she has served and she has not interfered with his tapas. And so he says to her, ask me for your boon. And she, like literally, just look at me. That's all she wanted. And so he spends a good 10 years being her husband, totally, completely indulging her every woman fancy. And then it's like, okay, I'm done. So maybe Ahalya was waiting for the same kind of thing. But this is an interesting thing, in Christian churches, sometimes before a couple get married, they do this course and they ask each person so many questions, like about money, about sense of family, and about having physical relationships. And if you're not matched on values for sure, and if you're not matched on even interest and wanting physical compatibility, it creates such a huge strain in a relationship. And so really hats off to these rishis and these rishinis who just dealt. They wanted, they didn't have, and they just dealt. It's so different in today's world. When they want and they don't get, they still go look. But here it was that idea of like, oh, it's not meant to be. I can't have it. Okay. And there's this acceptance. And so Ahalya definitely had this acceptance that Gautam Rishi is not interested. He's doing his tapas. And she was quite devoutly and dutifully serving. So whenever somebody does a lot of tapas, then they can potentially become Indra. And so current Indra is a seat in the heaven. The devatas are positions held by different jivas. Every cycle, a different jiva holds that position. Right? It's like in a parliament where you have the seat of the president, the finance minister, the defense minister. It's a seat. So Indra is a seat. So the current Indra, notice that Gautam Rishi is doing so much tapas, and he gets nervous. But he's going to get enough punya, and he's going to become Indra. And they are people that genuinely, deliberately do tapas to get the position of Indra. It does happen. Gautam Rishi wasn't interested in becoming Indra. He was just interested in purifying mind, get moksha. Right? But Indra thinks, no, with the amount of tapas he's doing, even if he doesn't want it, he's going to earn the position of Indra. And so I have to do something to destroy his tapas. So again, this asuric tendency. Now he's Indra. He would have had to do so much punya to get to the position of India. But look at our mindset that we can fall. We can reach such great heights and then we can fall. Yeah. So what does he do? So Indra also has the ability to take on any shape he wants to. And he takes on the exact shape of Gautam Rishi. So he looks like Gautam Rishi, and probably his mannerisms and all of that is similar too. And he comes to the ashram. So he comes to Gautam Rishi's house, where Ahalya is, looking like Gautam Rishi, not like some stranger, looking like her husband, and he embraces her. Now, poor Ahalya hasn't had any attention at all in eons, suddenly gets affection and immediately responds. Now, they continue. Indra is quite shameful, and he goes along with the whole act of having this physical relationship. And just as it's about to end, actual Gautam Rishi walks in. So there's no ambiguity in what has happened. And and Gautam Rishi is furious. Furious, furious, furious. And in a moment, he curses Indra first. Thankfully, he first curses Indra because he recognizes who it is, because it's not him, even though it looks like him. To have 100 eyes all over his body, because he should not have looked at another man's wife. Can't imagine how horribly painful that would be. Also, to think of this curse, I've always wondered what he was thinking when he thought this curse. There must be like a significance to it, which I haven't quite come across yet. But so much of what we desire starts by looking. We see something and then it grows into a desire. Also, we hear something and it grows into a desire. But seeing is even more than hearing. Right? So sometimes it's described really well and then you want it. But sometimes it's described and you think, because they didn't do a good job of describing it. But when we see something, and it's interesting with seeing something, it can appear to look better than it is. So I remember this one experience. I think I was fairly young. I can't remember how old I was, but we were in Bali and we were driving past. Everything looked so pretty. He said, let's go shopping. And then when you go into the shop, nothing's pretty. I think even first trip to India, you see all these markets and all these things on the side of the road and you think, oh, wow, everything's so exciting. And then you actually go to the shop and like, maybe it's a pretty, but it's bad quality, or it's, So desire can enter without it actually even being desirous. How interesting is that with our sight? Or, I mean, with food also, a lot of times, it's presented in a way and then we want it and then, actually, I didn't need to eat. And sometimes it wasn't even that nice. And so the idea of him being lusty, who, Indra, and looking, like the truth of who you are is that you're filled with desire. And so all these eyes in his body to like let the world know you're pretending to be this amazing Indra, but you're just lusty and petty. What's the word? Not petty. What's the word? Like, spiteful. And to do that too. Yeah. Even you wanted to hurt Gautam Rishi for his tapas. He hurt Ahalya. She was innocent in all of this. She wasn't doing the tapas and wanting Indra's seat. So anyway, Gautam Rishi Indra is horrified. He's having to deal with his curse. He can't wear clothes now because what he's covered in hands, and that in itself is extremely embarrassing. He can't go anywhere. He can't show his face anywhere because he's just so evidently cursed. And then, of course, people would know he did something in order to get cursed. So he definitely have to live his shame. And he would definitely lose his seat as Indra for what he had done. So interesting how we don't think things through. Then Gautam Rishi looks at Ahalya and he's still furious. He's still so angry. So before I go into what he does before he curses Ahalya, I'm going to talk about he's done tapas for years and years and years and years and years. And to get enough punya to become Indra, oh my goodness, that's like a solid amount of punya that takes lifetimes to collect. And then this one moment of anger burns all that punya. And you hear this in story after story after story. What burns your punya? Anger. Scary, yeah. We're not even doing so much punya. And then we keep getting so angry. What punya are we going to be left with? How we think in terms of when we think about heaven and how we think it will offset each other, but it doesn't. Your papa takes you to hell, your punya takes you to heaven, but your punya gets eaten up here before you even get there. Every time you get angry, like just a few moments of anger, and it just burns. Years of punya. So hard to do punya. Like we sit and we try Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai. We did with full concentration, one full japamala, and then somebody walks in. What are you doing here? God, that whole one since here. We don't completely comprehend how much attentiveness we need to have in not getting angry, in not giving in to these kind of emotions. Sometimes people are so focused on, in Brahmana culture, they have to have a bath and then they have to dress a certain way and then do this. So focused on living that. None of it's worth it if you get angry. Such a tricky thing anger is, huh? Here, let's go back to Gautam Rishi sees Ahalya and he says, you should have known. Yes, he looked like me, but you should have known. Now, it's true, when you have an intimate relationship with people, we do get to know them. Mannerisms or gestures or even the feel of how they say things or move or and truth is, at some point, Ahalya did realize. So when it starts, when the affection started, she saw her husband. She was overjoyed with getting the attention. And so she surrenders to that feeling. And then as the affection continues, she does recognize that this is not my husband. But the act of it can be so enthralling that you can't stop. Halfway through it takes a lot of willpower. Even for the strongest mind, when it's already the momentum has started in the action, the momentum takes over. And so possibly Ahalya made some effort to stop, or possibly the action had taken over with momentum. Possibly he was too strong. And since she had agreed in the beginning, it was taken as consent. There's different versions. But there is recognition that at some point, when it was too far gone, she does recognize. And so when Gautam Rishi looks at her, he can see that. He can see that she did recognize. Now he's so angry. He's not thinking that lust has its momentum. He is just thinking, you did this. And so he curses her. And he says, since you didn't bother using your intelligence, and you acted as good as a stone, become a stone. Now anger sweeps away. It comes in a storm and it leaves you quite exhausted, doesn't it? When anger leaves us. Also leaves us with a lot of regret and hurt. And so when Gautam Rishi calms down, he thinks, actually as much to blame as she was, because he didn't give her the attention she wanted. That's actually an incredible mature thing to realize. That we contribute to other people's weaknesses in the way we behave in a relationship like this intimate relationship, in siblings, in parent-child, and definitely in spouses. The way we conduct ourselves in the relationship contributes to them feeling lonely, guilty, unappreciated, etc., etc., etc. And so Gautam Rishi recognizes he's flawed. He also recognizes that she is such a pure person. There would have been a certain amount of trickery. And there was no intent to deceive him or betray him or be disloyal to him. She was tricked into being disloyal to him. And so he said he regrets immensely that he cursed. But once a curse is cast, it cannot be undone. And so Gautam Rishi thinks, how do I make it up to her that I have cursed her? And because of his siddhis that he had collected from when he had done all the tapas, he knew that Ramchandraji was going to be coming. And he thought, for her to get darshan of Bhagwan would be the best way for me to be able to make it up to her that I had cursed her. And so he says this curse will be lifted when Ram comes and the dust of his feet touch you. Now when he says this, effectively Ram has to come. Because Ramchandraji will honor the words of great rishis and bhaktas. And so these bhaktas create jobs for Bhagwan. Ramchandraji could have happily just gone and married Sita, but no, along the way he has to step into this ashram. And so it happens twice. 3, 4 times actually. No, it happens a few times in the Ramayana, where Ramchandraji says, my feet just turn and start walking in a particular direction. So the first time and the most popular time that we hear this, well, we hear it here in Ahalya. He kind of just turns in the direction of where the stone Ahalya is. And then they say he stepped, but she was a bbig stone. She's a whole person, right? You can't be a small stone if you're a whole person. So it's not like he would have banged his feet. I mean, he was very respectful that way. Maybe the side of his feet touched her. But in Balvihar plays, when you see the scene acted out, it's really cute to see that the kid is like, stand. And then some kids are like, or maybe in youth camp now, we just did the Ramayana in India. Like the youth are like very embarrassed. They don't want to touch somebody with their feet. Like, it's kind of like the dust moved. So in Tulsi Ramayan, because Tulsi Dasji is such a book, and he would think Ramchandraji would never ever step on a person. He says when he was walking, and when you walk, 1 foot rises, 1 foot, then the wind just carried the dust of his feet, and it landed on the stone, and voila, Ahalya turned back into Ahalya. But in most Ramayans, they say his foot rushed. I think in one it says stepped. Because there's definitely the stepping action that you see in a lot of dramatizations of it. And so this is what's happened. And so we come to this point in the Ramayana where suddenly this woman is standing in front of Ramchandraji, bowing down with tears rolling from her eyes, profusely saying thank you. You don't use profusely that way. What's the word for when you're saying thank you? With so much feeling and consistently saying it. She's bowing down and she's so grateful, and she's so delighted to have darshan of Ramchandraji. And so this incident in the Ramayana, many incidences in the Ramayana are not well understood. So Ramayana tends to get criticized as being very sexist. And this incident gets quoted as one of the ways that women are suppressed. Like, look at this. Why should she get cursed? And even though I can understand why people are saying this, they don't hear the full story. They don't understand this bit. To get darshan of Ramchandraji, you have to do so much punya. So even now, even though there were like 1 million people, more than 1 million people in Ayodhya for the temple opening, how many could actually go? You need so much punya to be able to even darshan in the temple like that on such an auspicious day, right? You need punya. So when Gautam Rishi curses, pretty much all his punya is gone. And then to adjust the curse, to say that she'll once again return to her human form when she meets Ramchandraji, he uses the balance of his punya to give her darshana Ramchandraji, because he realized he mucked up. Now this can't be oppression of women. Like if you hear just the first bit and you don't think it through and you don't see the whole story, it's so easy to skewer something, right? Like, wow, he used up the rest of his punya to make sure she gets darshan of Ramchandraji. After mistake is done, doing the very best he can to, from his point of view. And then, now that she's become Ahalya again, now that she's taken her human form, and she's been a stone for eons, huh? It's like a couple of 100 years. In the meantime, Gautam Rishi continued to do his tapas to get back all that punya that was lost when he cursed both of them. But the moment she becomes Ahalya again, he knows. He's doing that much tapas that his mind is that sensitive that he knows. Curse is over. She has had darshana Ramchandraji. Ramchandraji leaves, and Gautam Rishi comes back to the ashram and receives her once again as his wife. And then they continue to live very happily together. Like that, we should see the full story. He doesn't just abandon, he doesn't curse her, leave her, abandon her, go. He understands, he does what he can, and then he comes back to be with her, to love her, to respect her, and to spend that time together with her. And this is it's such a lovely understanding that, of course we make mistakes. So Indra definitely made a mistake. Ahalya made a mistake. Yeah. You give in a moment of desire, or in the moment of momentum. Both, probably, because she wanted in the first place, so she didn't recognize. And then afterwards, when she did recognize, it was too late. And then Gautam Rishi made a mistake. We kind of allowed to make mistakes. We can't be judged by just our mistakes. We have to be judged by the entirety of it. And so her being cursed purifies her from that mistake. And he continues to do the tapas to purify himself from his mistake. But in all of it, there's this beauty of Ramchandraji, fulfilling the devotee's need. Gautam Rishi had a need to reward Ahalya. But also, let's not forget, Gautam Rishi was happily doing tapas. Ahalya was doing tapas with him. Like I said, if he was up at the crack of dawn at 3 a.m., she was up at 3 a.m. She was consistently serving. She was doing her own tapas. She didn't get darshan just on his punya. She had collected enough punya of her own in doing tapas, in doing seva, and in not making that fuss of, you neglecting, not making any kind of demands. So this the her punya, and then helps her to be able to have that darshan. And Bhagwan allowing or taking care or looking after his devotees. But she's endured. She's had to be a stone. Of course, as a stone, you're not feeling anything. And so in a way, but still so much time gone, wasted, right? Even the heartache of knowing you made a mistake and disappointed your husband, and then even having to deal with your own, yeah. All of that's now purified because Ramchandraji is standing in front of her. And in fact, Gautam Rishi doesn't get darshan, but she does. Because he is left by the time Gautam Rishi comes back for Ahalya. But this incident of Ramchandraji's feet touching her and she becoming a woman again is an effect of the curse that was given to her. But So many jokes. So many jokes of Ramchandraji's feet turning stones into women. From in the story of the Ramayana itself, it will come in the story of Giveth, where he says, no, I'm not letting you touch my boat because we know there's some jadoo in your feet. But even commentators speaking on the Ramayana. And it's not that he made a stone a woman, but if we look at symbolism here, right? Because the Ramayana is filled with so much symbolism. If we look at symbolism here, Jada, the stone is Jada. Jada meaning inert. Right? So here we have a very sattvic, devout person turning into Jada. And so that mind, which has sentiency, which has consciousness, which has divinity vibrating to it, can become so base. For her, it was just a momentary lapse. But when we spoke earlier about what the Rakshasas can do, or how even in relationships we can become quite vindictive, spiteful. Indra becoming so insecure and then stooping to this level. And it's interesting in the stories of the Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Indra always uses lust as his first temptation. You see, even in the story of Vishwamitra, when he's meditating, Indra sends Urvashi. Menka. He sends Menka first time, second time. No, he sends Menka. You're right. He sends Menka. Menaka. Lust is his first weapon. Indra's first weapon is lust. Imagine it's a weapon. Interesting to think of lust as a weapon, huh? And then when you see all these Hollywood, well, I don't know, I haven't watched Hollywood in ages. No, Hollywood in ages. I've watched Hollywood, not so much also though. But in like these movies of Godfather or these, these espionage. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Again, they'll use lust as a bribery of having a affair. They use it as a weapon. It's interesting to see that it can be weaponized. Our lust can be weaponized. And then, of course, the physical sensual lust. But then even lust for power definitely can be weaponized. Lust for fame. Any kind of lust can be weaponized against us. So if someone's intelligent, they will strategically use it as a weapon. But people don't have to be intelligent for it to be weaponized against us. We ourselves make ourselves vulnerable when we are not in control of something like lust. Coming back to inert, our mind becomes suddenly very inert when we allow desire to sweep us away, which is what Ahalya does. Now, Ahalya is a beautiful sattvic person, and it just took a few moments. Having lived so much austerity, it took just a few moments of allowing desire to sweep you away. Now, this is not even lust to sweep you away. Huh? It wasn't lust that swept Ahalya away. It was affection from husband. Then lust made her not able to stop it. But the initial giving in is not lust. She was not lusty. It's exist in every single person, but that wasn't the initial interest. But once it kicks in, it's difficult to stop. So the mind becomes, and that's the point. Desire can become so overwhelming and can sweep us so far away from sentient, sattvic thinking to jada. Jada is, it's so base, it's so gross. Now, in Ahalya's case, it was lust, which was base, and her personality isn't base. But in other people, it can be that the whole personality becomes base. And then, so, beautiful, sentient, sattvic mind becomes jada, carried away by some desire or the other, carried away by anger and a whole host of emotions. Now, it stays jada. For how long? Eons. Until it is touched by Ram. Sentiency. On that mind which has become so jada, so jada, so jada, the minute we bring Ram to that mind once again becomes beautiful, sattvic, sentient. And so that's why this story is so powerful. It's just such a small incident, actually, in the whole weaving of the Ramayana, but it's a significant incident in the weaving of the Ramayana. You know, usually if you have highlights of the Ramayana, it will definitely be the Exiling to the Forest by KK. But Ahalya will feature. In highlights of the Ramayana, Ahalya will feature. But it's such a small incident. And it doesn't make a significant difference in the way that the story is weaved. I could have just left it out. We could skip straight to Sita. But Ahalya features in the highlights of the Ramayana because of this point. Yeah. Our jadaness. There's no such word, but we now have jadaness. Our laziness, our baseness, our dullness, our inertia. Inertia? Yeah. When is solved, cured, made vibrant once again by the touch of Ram. And so, you know, there's this bit in the Ramayana, before the Ramayana starts, which I couldn't do because y'all complain I don't tell you all the story. All of y'all look at her. Yeah, you. So I had to rush into the story of the Ramayana, but there's a bit of the Ramayana before the Ramayana talks, which talks about the glory of the name. Right? Narayan, it's the glory of the name of Ram. Now, one Ram touched one Ahalya. And when we get lazy and when we get Jada, where is he going to? He's not going to suddenly appear in our lives. But we can chant his name. His name can touch and remove the jadaness, the inertia, the dullness, the baseness, the pettiness, the spitefulness. Yeah. So again, we're doing Ramayana currently in Balbihar. And sometimes Usually we teach Ramayana to slightly older kids. But this year we're teaching it to all and sundry. So sometimes the teacher who's teaching the 4-year-olds will be like, how do you want me to explain that you need detachment to live in the world, Swamiji? Your whole lesson plan is about detachment. I don't think my 4-year-olds are going to understand detachment. And I said, yeah, the 4-year-olds are not going to understand detachment. So how to explain detachment? Just tell them to chantra. You don't even have to understand what detachment is, huh? Chant. Yeah. You will detach. Solution is given. I haven't given you the problem. I haven't given the 4-year-olds the problem. I'm giving them solution. How incredible is the power of his name? It's a solution to problems we don't even understand. Potentially a solution to problems we don't even know we have. How incredibly beautiful is his name. So Ramchandraji is very humble. When Ahalya is, once again trying to touch his feet, he's like, no. No. And whenever someone glorifies that his feet have the power to turn stone into women, it's like, no. But his name has the power to turn Jada into sentience. And then you think about it at a deeper level. Actually, all of us are Ahalya. Why? Because our body is made up of nothing but matter. Our body is Jada, right? It's 5 elements mixed together, and voila, here we have this body. But this body is sentient. There's no reason why this body should be sentient. Yet this body is sentient. Why? Touched by divinity. Gurudev used to actually call it the touch of life. The body gets touched by life. And then voila, it's sentient. I think in the 16th chapel in the Vatican, there's this picture of the touch of life. From up in the heavens, God is pointing one finger down. And from earth, man is stretching up with this other finger. And then just, but to stretch up, you need touch of life. So this picture's all wrong. You can't be reaching up to the heavens without life in you. It's poetic. It's a beautiful painting. Inaccurate. What it should be is Ram. Across the 16th chapel roof. Okay. I had my cheeky moment. So the story of Ahalya is actually a reminder that each one of us, that our body is nothing but inertness, nothing but jana, nothing but earth, matter, prakriti. And that sentiency that flows in us, that life force that flows in us is Ram. It's not his feet that have the power, it's him, and it's Ram itself that is sentiency itself. So nice. You are yawning, but it's so nice. Okay, we will pause here for today. Any questions?
Indra didn't get punished for doing it.
Indra got cursed, no? by Gautam Rishi. He couldn't look at anyone. I mean, he had so many eyes, but he couldn't look at anyone.
He could only keep looking.
Sorry, it's not that funny, but it is. Yeah, he lost his seat. After doing that, he lost his seat. No, Gautam Rishi never came. He's still alive. Gautam Rishi is still there, no? Isn't he one of the Sapta Rishis? No, Gautam Rishi never became Indra. He didn't want Indra. Sure. He didn't want. He wanted Rishi. He became the Rishi. He became one of the Sapta Rishis. They sure he's one of the Sapta Rishis.
After so much of stuff, also we are not able to fight our demons. Like there's that much of anger in.
Not in everyone, but yes, our mind is very sneaky. The ego has a built-in self-preservation instinct. So Indra represents that ego in us also, that doesn't want to die. Because the tapas is killing ego, no? So actually the only way to eventually eliminate ego is love, not tapas. But we need to do tapas, purify our mind, strengthen our mind. Also we need to do tapas to be able to accomplish in this world. Only a strong mind can accomplish things in the world. So many people are giving Modi the credit for this mandir. He does tapas. He has accomplished. Good, bad, like him, don't like him, doesn't matter. I'm not getting into any of that politics. I'm simply showing you the tapas we do makes our mind strong. And then you can accomplish. And so he said even about Obama. Or what was his name? I forgot him already. Yeah, Trump. It might not appear like he did tapas, but he would have. To wield power, he would have done tapas. Somewhere, maybe last night, but somewhere, he would have done tapas.
That tapas will then help us with that constant realization, right? That my ego is overpowering. That constant awareness, which probably we had as that tapas increasing.
That's a different type of tapas. Constant awareness is a different type of tapas. So the tapas are discipline, and then yes, tapas of constant awareness. The tapas of constant awareness is more powerful than the tapas of discipline. So if we do the tapas of constant awareness, falling is not so. We can't be so easily tricked. We can still be tricked. The minute you have a desire, you can be tricked. Right? In all these espionage shows, that's what they figured out. They figured out the guys or the girls' weakness, desire. When they use that against them. Again, that's why Modi didn't marry. Can't use family against him. Proper tapas he's done. Whether you like him or not, whether you think he's doing good or not, this much you have to agree. He's done tapas.
So this class also, and then previous classes also, we learned how anger is obviously not serving a good purpose.
Anger is really hurting us.
But it does serve a purpose.
It does.
So in what situations does it?
The purpose that anger serves is to uphold righteousness. If we are using anger to uphold righteousness, it's being used in the right way. So I think when those Black Lives Matter movement came out, that was one of the arguments. right? Like this is what anger they called it? Validated anger. This is there was a word that they used. It's like you should be angry that Black people are being treated this way. Like don't uh, minimize the effect of the injustice. But that's not what we use anger for. What do we use anger for? Getting what we want. So we use anger for desire. We don't use anger for justice. If you use anger for justice, it's fine. It won't destroy your tapas.
So we have to be objective enough to know that it's for justice and it's not for something just like.
Yeah, it's not desire. So Ramchandraji uses anger. 2 occasions in the Ramayana. He stands up, pulls out his bow, puts it on his arrow, and says, I'll burn this entire ocean. Varun Devata appears. He meditated for 3 days like such a nice, sweet person. Please, Varun Devata, please come speak. I would like to talk to you. Did Varun Devata come? No. 3 days, 3 days. He sweetly sat there inviting Varun Devata to have discussion. Varun Devata didn't come. 4th day morning, he stood tall, majestic, held his bow, took out that arrow, squinted his brows. Varun Devata appeared. He used anger, and it was a threat that he would have done. I will dry up this entire ocean. And he could, with 1 arrow. He could dry up the whole ocean. There's one other point also he uses anger. Why? Injustice. What's the injustice? He was protecting Ravana. Why would Varun Devata not come in front of Ram? That's his boss. Because Ravana said, don't go. And he listened to Ravana. So Ramchandraji used anger. It was for protecting justice. It won't destroy anything. It destroys a dharma. But that's not what we get upset about. Even when you hear people say it's the principle of the matter. Because the principle is in adherence to your desire. That's all.
There is so many justice in the world.
There
Right?
is.
Some people believe in only the Lord. So what's the
Dharma. No, when I use the word justice, I'm talking about dharma, not legality.
we have to study?
Hurting people. Dharma is hurting people.
Use anger.
To protect them.
Intention is very important. Understanding.
No. Time to end the class. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkhabhag bhavet, asatu ma satgamaya, tamasu ma jyotirgamaya, mrityu ma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamidachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Oh. Hariya Shri.